having the right place, knowing what area we're supposed to be in, doesn't mean that finding an actual meeting space was easy for us, because that took a long time.
We were meeting on Sunday nights. We really didn't have a place to meet on Sunday mornings then. It just didn't feel like we could get our momentum. And so, boom, all of a sudden we had a location. If he's called you for it when it's time, he'll provide. Don't give up. Keep praying about it. You know what I mean? Keep seeking him. And in his timing, he'll open that door up.
Welcome back to the How to Go Multi-Site with No Money and No People podcast. I'm Kevin Brown, pastor of Cornerstone Church, and I'm excited to continue this journey with you. Now, when it comes to going multi-site, success isn't about having unlimited resources or about the perfect strategy. It's about discerning God's plan and aligning with it. And there are three essential keys that will guide us in this process. It's having the right people, finding the right place, and moving at the right time. These elements form the foundation of a healthy, effective multi-site launch. These three factors can make or break our multi-site expansion. And they're not just about strategy. They're about God's timing and God's direction. Now, in our last episode, we broke down the first one, the right people. Today, we're diving deeper into the second of these three critical elements of a successful multi-site launch, and that's the right place. Now, to help us unpack this, I've invited Robbie Pilcher, my campus pastor at our Marion County campus, and Robbie has played a key part in this journey from the very beginning. So I'm excited to have you hear his insights. Now, as part of the Harvest Network leadership team, I know ministry is more than just fulfilling a mission. It's also about the journey of growth and transformation along the way. At Harvest Network, we believe leaders are stronger when they come together. And by joining a community of ministry leaders, you gain resources and support and build relationships that foster long-term growth. If you're not yet a part of a network, I encourage you to reach out to us at Harvest Network. Together, we can expand God's kingdom and strengthen the church. So let's enjoy this journey together. All right, Robbie, it's good to have you with me again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So today we're talking about the right place. Last time we talked about the right people. Now we're talking about the right place. Another big question that churches wrestle with when they're going multi-site. For us, I think the right place came fairly easily for us because, as we talked about in the last session, that as soon as I mentioned it to the elders, we said we would pray about it. We would talk with you. And as soon as you talked to Harriet, she knew exactly where we should be going. So take us through that again. So after an elder meeting, I called you and said, hey, we're praying about going multi-site. You had just gotten back from Christ for the Nations. Are you interested in being a campus pastor? And you said, let me pray about it and talk to my wife and then take it away from there.
Well, if you haven't watched the previous session, back up and watch the previous session.
Yeah.
Because I hit on this. But I had the previous summer, I had a question from Susan Rogers where she had asked me, you know, have you ever considered being a campus pastor? And I hadn't. I didn't. You know, so many times we have in our minds like the future that God has for us, and we think he's going to work it out this way. And he's got, you know, I guess my thing is this, if I have in my mind that, oh, God's going to do this is how he's going to do that, that's probably the last way that he's going to do that. And I think in my case, God's just got a sense of humor. And so if you grew up in our area in Sly County and then realize that Marion County is the next county over, and they were always very competitive rivals and that kind of thing. And for God to end up sending a boy from Sly County to Marion County, he's got to have a sense of humor, you know. And so, but he took getting me to a place where I was like, okay, God, you can send me anywhere. I didn't care if it was Africa or wherever I'd go. And then he sends me to Marion County. It's funny. And so, but yeah, God was already moving and doing things, and there's part of recognizing what he was up to. So I had that word from Susan. We felt like from Susan and Chris, we really had this Macedonian call to go to Marion County. It was already in Harriet's heart. God had been dealing with her. Once I said that, it was like, oh, that's a no-brainer. This is what God's been doing in her heart, and she already had that on her mind and in her heart, and like, boom, that was it. And so you had Chris and Susan that were wanting something like our church there. You had Harriet that had that on her heart to do there. Susan that helped plant the seeds in me to do that. And then we had Harriet's mom and dad that were willing to help. And so, you know, you just kind of saw it coming together. And then we got to looking at the county then, you know, and seeing the demographics of the county and the type churches that were in the county and that kind of thing, and realized that there was a need there, you know? And so it's just tuning into God and realizing there is this divine call to go do that.
Yeah, it wasn't just about finding someplace that's convenient or practical, but God really was leading us. And we just felt like we had confirmation after confirmation after confirmation that we were supposed to be in Marion County.
Absolutely, because if Robbie would have picked it, he probably wouldn't have picked
That's
Marion
right.
County.
That's right.
You know, so, yeah.
And even as you guys initially starting to talk to people within the county, even having more confirmations as you were telling people, we're going to plant a campus here, and the responses were just overwhelmingly positive.
Oh yeah, it was even from other churches. You know? And a lot of times, I would think other churches might see a new church coming in as being a threat to them, but I didn't feel that at all. Matter of fact, I went to one pastor and he's like, "You want to look at my role?" and said, "All these people aren't coming here regular. Do you want to see if you can get them? Maybe they'll like your style church better than what we're doing here." And can you believe that?
Yeah,
they really did. I'm
wow.
like, wow, okay. And so it wasn't. You felt very welcome. I don't know how to say that, but it was.
I remember Chris telling us he would talk to somebody and he said, "Man, I've got goosebumps," and they would start crying about what we were doing. And not that, we're led by that, but we just felt like that was just like a confirmation that we were moving in the right direction. So yeah, for us, it seemed like a quick movement in that direction. We knew where we needed to go. So there are things we look for, right? When we're looking for an area where we want to plant a campus, there's certain things we're going to look for. There's 4 things specifically: assessing where Cornerstone members reside, considering locations where we have small groups at Cornerstone are meeting, or evaluating the needs of the surrounding communities, and then identifying areas experiencing growth. So for us, looking for a location or finding the right place had to do with, say, where do we have church members? One of the ways we identify a place is, look, where do we have some church members driving in from that maybe there's a need in that community for a church? And that's what we did experience, that people were driving into Cornerstone Church from that distance, from that location, because there wasn't anything immediate there for them. We had other people that weren't coming to our church, but were driving to another bigger city for a church there because there was nothing in that immediate area. So that's one of the ways we knew that was a good location. So we had members living there. We felt like there was a need, as you had mentioned, for a church like Cornerstone there. And so it seemed to be the right place. Now, having said that, having the right place, knowing what area we're supposed to be in, doesn't mean that finding an actual meeting space was easy for us, because that took a long, long time.
That was really hard.
You want to talk about the difficulties there? Like, we just couldn't find anything. Again, we're in Southwest Georgia, rural, not a lot of opportunities for buildings and stuff that are available. So talk about some of our bunny trails as we tried to figure that out.
Well, we initially, we started just with a life group. And so we started meeting in homes.
Yep.
Is what we started doing. And that works well, up to a certain point. But the logistics, part of the group that we wanted to attract was people with kids, and you start getting kids, we had whatever we had, 6 adults and 15 kids, whatever, And so the logistics become a little hard sometimes doing that. And so anyway, we tried different things. There was a Hispanic church that let us meet at their church, and that was not the best situation. They were so sweet to let us do that, and I really appreciate that. And of course, we're going through the whole setting up every week and tearing down because we didn't use their equipment, so we had to use our equipment. And so we'd come in, set up, and tear down. I'm so thankful for those teenage boys and
that helped us.
And kids that would help us every week do that. And so, but we were meeting on Sunday nights. We really didn't have a place to meet on Sunday mornings then, and it just really didn't feel like we could get our momentum. At the time, the downtown area was relatively, it's small anyway. So, but it was full, and there wasn't. We looked at buildings, and I remember looking at buildings, and of course, Harriet likes to do like floor plans and figure out how we would use a place, and I can't tell you how many buildings that we have looked at and designed floor plans to figure out how we could have a church there, and just nothing seemed right. Nothing would work out. Nothing was large enough, or nothing, it was like really, really, really tough. And there was this one, I'll just tell about our building. There was this one building, and it came open, but it had been leased by a corporate company. And he'd been getting a lot of money for the lease for it. And of course we couldn't afford to pay that much. And so anyway, I didn't know what to do, but God really led me. I remember at an elders meeting, I was talking with Mr. Don Timbensel, who was one of our founding elders, and I had a figure in my mind that I just kind of felt like God had told me, that this is what you need to offer for the lease, and it was an amount that I figured we could pay if I had to pay it. And so anyway, and Don had a figure in his head too. And so I can't remember exactly what we did, if we both said it at the same time, or maybe I wrote mine on a sheet of paper and he wrote his on a sheet of paper, but it was the same figure. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay. So then God led me to do something really strange. Instead of like just calling the guy or emailing him, I felt like God said, write a letter. And so I wrote a letter and mailed it to this guy and expressed, what we were willing to pay to lease it. And he called me up and says, okay. And so boom, all of a sudden we had a location, but it was, to get to that point was really, really tough, to do that. And so I think it's important to press into God, and if he's called you for it, when it's time, he'll provide,
That's right.
And so keep looking for him. Don't give up. Keep praying about it. Keep seeking him. And in his timing, he'll open that door up. It wasn't my timing, but it was his timing. And so,
That's good. Yeah, and that the space that we had worked out very well. The layout of it, we were able to use it and maximize it and really just pack that place out, eventually to the point where we ended up buying it.
Yeah.
So it really did work out in the long run. And so that was exciting. Yeah, a lot of fun. Good memories of the place. We tried that Hispanic church in the evenings, didn't work out. We even went to the Rock building. We met several times in the Rock building.
Yeah.
Like had no AC or no heat. So we were hot or we were cold.
I remember my mother-in-law, she was like, I can't come back to church. I'm going to pass out. It's so hot in there. And so,
it was hot.
Yeah, so it was tough. And, just the whole thing, setting up for kids ministry and all that was tough every week. So, we really went through some hard times. And so that's where I think it's important to be true to the vision that God's given you. Don't give up on it, even when it doesn't seem to be working in his timing on that. Just trust him. And he'll show you, and he did, but it's one step at a time, I think with that. And so did we learn something from all of that process that we went through? I think we did, and we got there, but it was a tough road at times, but God's good. And so I feel so blessed now.
Yeah.
So
that is good. All right. So a takeaway for everyone who is watching. So when you're looking for the right place, you're looking for the right location, you're looking for the fingerprints of God, right? As he was just confirming every step of the way. And sometimes it seemed fast as we knew exactly what area we were to go to, what county, but then at other times slow as we were looking for where do we actually meet at, having a lot of difficulty, but just continuing to follow his lead and his guidance, ending up at the right place. Man, this building that we're meeting in had the right setup for us. Eventually, we ended up buying it, being able to expand into other areas of that building, and still in there to today, just able to house everything that we're doing. So we're so excited about that. So, all right, Robbie, in closing, anything you want to leave us with as we get ready to wrap this session up on the right place?
We had a guy that spoke to this weekend and talked about don't let fear hold you back. And the way I would say it is be willing to step out of the boat. You all know the story about Peter walking on water. He had to step out of the boat, and if he hadn't been willing to step out, he never would have experienced that. Of course, he had his struggles too. He started to sink when he took his eyes off of Christ. So I would say when you step out of the boat, keep your eyes on Christ.
Right.
Don't lose your focus.
Yep, that's good.
When you do that.
Good advice. All right. So if today's episode has encouraged you, I just want to encourage you guys to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss another episode, and we'll see you in the next podcast.